What's happening, hardscapers? This is episode 36 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk with you about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today we're joined one last time by Greg Borger. He's the president and founder of Stone Deck Innovations in Canada, and he drops by today to talk with us about pedestal systems in your business for rooftop and other applications. And head on over to stonedeck.ca to learn more about all of the different products that we've talked about during these past few episodes on the How to Hardscape podcast, and how they can expand the services and solutions that you can offer your clients. And if you're a contractor in Canada, be sure to join their referral network. And so without further ado, here's our interview with Greg Borger. Greg, and rounding out our series that we've had you on and Stone Deck Innovations on, talking about these different products that you offer that are going to help contractors educate themselves on different things that they can bring to a job site, to a customer when they're trying to sell them on a project. We're rounding it out with these pedestal systems that you offer, and you offer a variety of them. Can you talk a little bit about where a contractor would use a pedestal system for their customer?
Absolutely. And once again, thank you for having Stone Deck Innovations on this podcast. Pedestal systems, I guess they've been around for a number of years, but more on a commercial application for commercial buildings, but they are growing in popularity from a residential perspective, and contractors are encountering more and more projects where they can absolutely be beneficial. As cities grow and builders are putting bigger houses on smaller properties, their only option really is to grow those buildings up as opposed to out. And in a lot of these designs, they're incorporating various balconies and, flat rooftops with the intention of giving the homeowner the ability to create this outdoor living space, right? So a rooftop deck, rooftop balcony, it's a fantastic location, as a gathering point for family, offering great views. And typically the builder isn't offering that service directly. They might be subbing it out to a contractor to offer that to their client. But what you're typically dealing with is pre-poured concrete slab that's pitched and sloped to drive the water to where it needs, or some type of a roofing material membrane that's obviously pitched and sloped to drive the water in certain directions, and then designed and intended to have a deck system put on. So what the pedestals allow you to do is they are support systems, so mini footings, for lack of a better word, that allow you to quickly and easily adjust pitch and slope of the roof. So there's no real excessive shimming of the pedestal itself. The pedestal will do that. And then they basically have a dial mechanism in the pedestals that allow you to adjust for the elevation of this pedestal. And at that point, you can cover or create whatever rooftop deck you want. And when I say rooftop deck, the possibilities are endless. I mean, you can, thanks to the pedestal system, you can use wood or composite planking. You can use any stone paver or porcelain. You can even use artificial turf and create that, second, third story rooftop outdoor living space quickly and easily, without permanently affixing anything to that waterproof membrane, still allowing for any type of mechanical underneath, whether it's the drainage, whether it's electrical, gas lines, and then creating this floor system that you can transform into anything you would like it to be.
As my business does not do commercial at this point, I've never encountered an installation with one of these systems, but I understand the installation of it, but understanding and putting it into practice are two completely different things. And can you give our audience a rundown of installing this?
All right. I think before I sort of touch on that, from a contractor's perspective, the bit of advice I will give them is, the first thing when a homeowner brings you in to speak to this is the first thing you want to make sure is that a rooftop patio or deck is allowed, right? We have seen situations where homeowners or builders have built this with the selling feature that you can do this, and all of a sudden there's a zoning or a bylaw or a condo bylaw that prevents you from utilizing that space because of the views or whatnot. So you want to make sure that is allowed. The second and probably the most important thing, contractor wants to make sure that the roof that is going to be used for that rooftop deck can handle the weight, right? So either getting that information directly from the contractor or, having the homeowner do the appropriate amount of research and hiring, whether it's a structural engineer or somebody to speak to it. And that's going to sort of be determined again by the style and nature of the material that put on, right? So, the first thing that you want to sort of determine is, what material are you using, right? So are you using a 2-inch stone? Are you using an 1.5-inch decking board? And look at the various threshold heights. So the threshold height would be basically the entry onto that roof, right? So if you have a set of stairs that leads to that rooftop balcony, you're going to open that door and then you're going to step down onto the roof. That's your threshold height. So how much room do you have to play with? The pedestal systems and Stone Deck Innovations, we carry 2 lines, Bison Innovative Pedestal Systems made in the US and Turnovica pedestals made in Italy, basically have pedestals that literally can go from 1/8 of an inch up to 36 inches high. You have to take into consideration that threshold and the material that you're working with, right? So assuming that the threshold is a non-issue or a non-starter, then you have the ability to select whatever type of material you wish to use. So I use the example of, wood or composite planks. In that case, what you would do is you would create, for lack of a better word, a deck on top of this rooftop. The framing joists would be supported underneath by the pedestals in the appropriate locations. So what you would do is you would, as you're putting down your framing joists, you would slide the pedestals underneath, and basically at the one end that you'd be starting your required height of that threshold, you would adjust the pedestal to the appropriate height by either dialing it up or dialing it down, and then using the base levelers, depending on the model of pedestal, to adjust for any pitch and slope. So that allows you to create a perfectly flat rooftop. Taking into account, again, the type of stone that you're using or the type of material that you're using. In heavy rains, where is that water going to run? Is it going to run in between the decking boards onto the roof and then drain off because the roof has the appropriate slope? Or do I need to incorporate a bit of drainage into that roofing material itself? If you're going to be using any type of small stones or porcelain planks, porcelain pavers are becoming more popular now, and they're designing and manufacturing porcelain planks that look like thin tiles that are 48 inches long by 6 inches. If you try to support those by pedestals, the amount of pedestals you would require would be tremendous. Similarly, if you're choosing a style of stone that's, small stones, 8 by 8, 12 by 12, 6 by 8, trying to support each one of those stones in a corner by a pedestal would become problematic. So this is where our Silca system grates are fantastic. Basically, the Silca system grates are 2 square feet, and you would lay your grates down and you'd put a pedestal in each corner of that grate. So you're not requiring any of the framing. It's a pedestal is supporting the grate. And then over top of that Silca grate, you could lay those porcelain planks or lay the smaller stones. Once you start getting into larger stones like porcelain pavers that are, 2x2 or concrete slabs that are 2x2, those can actually be supported in each corner by a pedestal. If you're getting into artificial turf, which is becoming more popular, as I described, using the Silca grates supported by the pedestals, which will then support the Silca grate, which will then support the turf. So, when it comes to working with, say, a 2x2 grid or laying the Silca grates, what we would recommend for installation is basically installing a T. So you have basically both axes of the roof running, left to right and front to back. And by laying that in a T pattern, you're able to get straight, consistent lines, especially if you're working with the finished top product like a 2x2 porcelain paver. You want to make sure that your lines are nice and straight. There's no need to physically attach the pedestals themselves to the rooftop. Some contractors like to put a drop of silicone underneath just to prevent some movement during the initial installation and setup. A lot of the pedestal systems have locking mechanisms that will lock the top material to the pedestal. So in essence, what you're doing is you're creating a giant floating floor above the roof membrane with, a cavity underneath, and that cavity would be determined by, the threshold height onto the roof again, and if you need to clear any type of mechanical, whether it's drains, gas lines, AC connections, or anything like that.
Now, with these, do they have built-in spacers to them so that every space that you have in your tiling is the exact same?
Yeah, so they'll have different thicknesses of spacers. The two most popular are 1/8 inch and 3/16 inch, which offer that consistent spacing and that consistent look.
You talked about that they can come as low as an eighth of an inch, and is that basically like I can't see you wanting to get any smaller than that if you're working with a pedestal, right?
That is an extreme. So when you think of adjustable pedestals, whether it's the Bison innovative product or the Eterna pedestal system, they have fixed pedestals, which means they're not adjustable. They're adjustable by stacking another pedestal on top of a pedestal to a certain height where it becomes realistic to be able to have a mechanical system within the pedestal that allows you to dial it up or dial it down, right? So an eighth of an inch, that's in an extreme case where there's a design in the threshold where, you're stepping up onto a roof and you're dealing with minimum clearances, right? So, you're talking, I'm putting down a 20 mil porcelain paver, and I'm still concerned about threshold height. So at that point, I might need to just have a little bit of a shim to allow the water to run off, right? And again, that's being used as an example of the different tolerances that you have. But I mean, typically what we'll see is, again, on construction is you're probably 8 to 12 inches stepping through the doorway onto a roof, especially if they're taking into account some type of a floor system, right?
Absolutely. And then what about in a residential application? Say somebody's installing a pool deck. Could they install a synthetic base material that's, say, popular on the market and install these pedestals to be able to install a porcelain deck?
So any of these pedestal systems can be used on ground. I mean, the thing that you have to take into account is what the pedestal then would be. It would be basically, in essence, an adjustable, for lack of a better word, deck block, right? So if you think of, putting down a concrete deck block, which is a, fixed block of concrete that gives you a bit of a base to catch a stringer or a sleeper, that deck block needs to be supported by some type of base preparation, right? I mean, if a contractor was to just put a deck block on a patch of grass and then build the deck, as that deck block settles and whatnot in the grass or in those soil conditions, it's going to move down. So there needs to be some level of base preparation. So for the pedestal systems, they actually have, like the Bison innovative product system has base pads for them. So they have base pads that are designed for soil conditions that actually will spread the load of that pedestal, giving it more stability and preventing it to a certain degree from sinking in. But at the same time, I mean, we can't stress enough that there needs to be some base preparation. And at the same time, the Bison has a base system designed if you're working with a roof that has a very low PSI threshold because of they use a certain foam insulation for waterproofing, and you need to distribute that weight of the system.
Is there a warranty offered on these pedestals?
Most manufacturers, you're going to find that there's a 1-year standard warranty on the pedestal system itself. I mean, the pedestal systems are made of recycled materials, which are great for the environment. I mean, they've all been engineered and tested. The average pedestal system, whether it's the Eterna or the Bison one, each pedestal can hold a load of about 1,250 pounds. They're covered by decking, so they're not exposed to, the sun, to any degradation, over time. And I mean, we've had no issues of ones breaking, cracking, being affected by freeze thaw or anything like that.
And for a residential contractor, I guess I'm just trying to relate to this as much as possible myself. Where would I see this coming into play, say a pedestal system?
It's sort of a two-part prong approach. So we've had one contractor use them very successfully, where somebody had a concrete porch that structurally was in good condition but just looked like junk. They were able to use the pedestals to actually support the silica grates, create a secondary subfloor, and redo that entire structure with porcelain pavers. So the pedestals are quickly and easily adjustable. They're sitting on a solid foundation, and they're creating elevating that floor. And we've had other contractors use them, in similar applications where people have a concrete pad in that. Again, can they be used on the ground? Absolutely. But now you're spending time base preparation. And if you're starting to get into that excavation and some type of base preparation, then looking to a product like the Silka Soil Grid or the Alliance Gator Base, those are probably better alternative products for the customer to use. And as a hardscape contractor, you have to sort of decide whether, rooftops is something you want to do, right? So, if you have contractor listeners who do rooftop applications, because like I said, the trend is there, right? Homes are being built up, not out, and people are trying to, in the urban setting, take advantage of outdoor living spaces on these rooftops. So it's a growing and a big market where, these pedestals allow that contractor to get in there and bid. And so I realize there are certain contractors that have no interest in working on rooftops because it's a totally different element, right? Unlike a traditional backyard where, you can access the backyard and not care about dirt and whatnot, certain rooftop applications, if you do not have the means or ability, either due to location or physical restrictions to crane or lift up material, a lot of this stuff is hand bombed through a house, right? So if you're talking about a luxurious $1 million home with hardwood floors, there's a bit of prep as crew is going to have to carry it up. And, I think of this one job that was done in exactly the setting that I'm describing, multiple trips to bring the pedestal systems up there, to bring the porcelain pavers, everything had to be carried through the house. Now, obviously, that job is quoted appropriately, but those are things a contractor has to take into consideration when looking at the scope of work. So this may not be something that every contractor is into, but it's definitely a growing market, and it's definitely a potentially lucrative market as, cities grow.
And I love giving that option to contractors out there that if you want to get into this commercial work, this is the product for you to get into this rooftop installation, but also getting a visual that you provided there of the different ways that this can be implemented in an installation. And I've come across those, poured concrete foundations, backyard patios that are still in good condition, but the customer wants like an updated look. And instead of ripping that out, if it's still pitched away from the foundation, if it's still in good shape, putting in those pedestals and the grate system and then laying on top of that is beneficial as opposed to adhering something right to that concrete structure. And I can definitely see where these are coming into play now. And thank you for that, drawing up the installation process of these, as well as how this can be applied to every contractor out there.
I'm a big believer that you're going to see a huge spike in the demand of porcelain pavers. There's more manufacturers starting to make them and make them in North America. You're going to see the pricing of them start to decrease. I know we offer porcelain paver for sale on the retail side of things, and we're seeing an increased demand for it. And, the pedestals, whether it's the Bison or the Internovica, are a perfect fit. And if you go to our website, stonedeck.ca, you'll be able to see lots more information. That we have a Bison innovative product page and a Internovica page that speaks to the various different pedestal systems, shows the catalogs, shows the different heights and the different styles of them.
Awesome, Greg. Thank you so much for that. And one more time, mention this contractor referral program that Stone Deck Innovations offers for our audience that are living in Canada and want to get in touch with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stone Deck Innovations, we're developing a contractor network. So for contractors that are interested in using our products and offering them to their clients, again, just another tool in your toolbox. No cost or obligation to that. The only thing that we ask is that you understand our products. So if we refer a customer to you for, a rooftop deck using Bison pedestals, you're not saying to that customer, I have no idea what you're talking about. And what we do is we put their information directly on our website. So when we have a contract or a customer reach out to us from Toronto saying, I'm interested in a rooftop deck, I want to use your Bison pedestal systems, we can direct them to our contractor page. They'll reach out to whatever contractor they choose, and then that contractor can work directly with their client to provide the services design that they're looking for. Now, we realize that some contractors aren't going to be interested in all aspects of it, and we're okay with that, right? There's nothing wrong with being part of our contractor network because you love Silka System, you love Paver Deck, you love out tile deck, but you don't want to do the rooftops because of the logistics of it, then it's as simple as, we don't do that aspect of it. So we're very flexible in terms of that and provide full support to all our contractors.
And just another way for contractors out there to diversify where they're getting their leads from. And especially if, one of these products resonates with them, definitely a great way to start to offer these products to customers. And Greg, I've had you here for 2 hours now talking about these series of interviews that we're going to be releasing shortly on the How to Hardscape podcast. And if you're listening to this right now, you have maybe listened to all of these episodes that we're releasing with you. So on behalf of myself and the How to Hardscape community, thank you so much for your time. I know it can be extremely difficult to talk for 2 hours for as long as you've been talking. So we really appreciate your time, and we really appreciate the value that you're offering this community.
Very pleased at this opportunity, and again, just getting our products out there. It's a growing market for these type of products. You're seeing various manufacturers recognizing that and developing new ways and products and techniques of doing things, right? And like one of our mottos is, welcome to the stone deck revolution, and that's kind of what our products are about, a new way of doing things and offering your customers alternatives.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. One last time, I want to give a great thank you to Greg for joining us for the past few episodes. He invested a lot of time with us in doing these few episodes and provided a lot of value. And if you want, you can visit us at howtohardscape.com for more information on these subjects that we've talked about. Let us know what you want to learn more about in future episodes by reaching out to us on our social channels. We are at howtohardscape on Facebook and Instagram. Or send us an email, contact@howtohardscape.com. And again, subscribe, leave us a rating review. This really helps us and allows us to get more guests on the show to deliver you more value. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.